The following podcast is an Embassy Row production.
Welcome back to another episode of the Shaken and Stirred Show. I'm Nigel Barker in New York, and I'm here with my co-host, Tom Astor, who looks like you're back home, old boy.
I am back home, yeah. I went on an extremely exotic away break for the weekend to a place called Cardiff.
Oh, Cardiff. You went to Cardiff. And that's right, you sent me a video of people cycling around naked.
Well, they cycle around naked, and on the night of Saturday night out, most of the female population under the age of about 23 appear to be naked from a distance until you get close up, and then you realize that they've got a very small amount of clothing on.
No wonder you were there in Cardiff, Wales.
There weren't also, actually thinking about it, there were absolutely no men at all, really. I mean, literally, I think there were probably... So anyway, anyone thinking, any men out there are lonely and looking for a date, I suggest Cardiff's a really great place to go.
But judging by the looks of things, the odds were good, but the goods were odd.
There we go. That's such a great expression. I'm glad you got segued that in.
You know me. I like a good segue. And on that note, old boy, what are you drinking?
I've had an Italian friend of mine came for dinner this evening. As you know, we're a big time difference here, so I do these things just before I'm about to go to bed. So I've already had my day, had my lunch, had my dinner, and I was talking about cocktails with her, and obviously you've seen, I was sending you videos of the cocktails I was drinking in Cardiff, which were phenomenal, and I've got to say, Cardiff does have some amazing cocktail bars where they really take it seriously, including one called The Alchemist. I've sent you the images of these incredible sort of concoctions.
If anybody wondering, we posted them on @Shaken and Stirred on Instagram. You can check out these crazy cocktails, frothing, flowing, bubbling cocktails.
A lot of showboating going on. Anyway, so I was talking to my Italian friend about cocktails, Italy, and what they drink, and she said, look, the thing in Italy at the moment that people seem to be doing is keeping it really simple. And I said, what do you mean? And this isn't just my way of like going, well, I don't want to get all the, but it is kind of, but at the same time, because you do all that stuff with you like your measures and, educating people about various cocktails, but I like keeping it simple. Now, she said, vodka tonic, have a vodka tonic, have a vodka soda. Herbs. In Italy, we're all using herbs. We chuck a bit of thyme in, we chuck a bit of rosemary into a vodka tonic, we chuck a bit of fruit in with a bit of rosemary, a bit of thyme. The flavors are amazing. So I got her recipe this evening, which has got thyme, rosemary, and a bit of fruit in it. I'm not sure quite how the fruit's going to work with the thyme and rosemary because I'm using raspberries. But basically, I'm using a skinny tonic water because I've been in Cardiff all weekend eating too much and drinking too much. So I'm on a bit of a health kick. So it's a skinny tonic vodka with thyme, rosemary, as per my friend's thing, and with a raspberry in it.
Oh my God. Everybody out there, I apologize in advance for the most long-winded, I mean, that took forever for you to explain that you're having a bloody vodka tonic and you put some herbs in it. You sort of spilt some herbs in it by accident.
But it's important to know that in Italy, apparently, this is the definition of a cocktail.
Like the Italians know.
Yeah, I mean, they did invent the Negroni, didn't they, I suppose?
They did invent the Negroni, true, but it's actually a take of the Americano, which sounds Italian as well. But anyway, you're right. Well, I went very classic too.
Can we have your long-winded explanation of the fabulous creation that you've done, which probably for once isn't anything like mine?
No, well, actually, nothing like yours. And very simple, actually. I decided to go with the Classique Manhattan, made in the 1880s in Club Manhattan. And, if you're a traditionalist, you like rye whiskey, which is what I used, Bullet Rye. But you can use bourbon. I think if you just want to go off the edge with it, and it's mixed with vermouth, sweet vermouth. So I used Ransom sweet vermouth. Everyone knows Ransom. We love Ransom here at the Shaken and Stirred show, and it's got some Angostura bitters, a couple of dashes, 4 dashes, and it's got a couple of dashes of orange bitters, and then you put a brandied cherry in it. And that's all it is. But it's a classic, and it's timeless, and it is delicious to this day. And I think
it's classique.
Classique is what it is. Classique, my friend.
Derelict.
Like derelict, exactly. So here's to a classique and derelict podcast today.
And
another classic, which is you, by the way.
We both got off bits of fruit.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah, cheers.
So on to a little bit of booze news, a little bit of fast action booze news on the Shaken and Stirred show. And this time round, we're talking serious stuff, people. We're talking heists. Now, whenever you have a drink, certainly in a place like Italy, like Tom's just been talking about, did you ever think that the alcohol you're drinking could be counterfeit? Dun, dun, dun. It could be. It turns out that Interpol, that's right, the international investigation organization with countries from all over the world, and Europol, which is the Euro version of it, because for some reason you need both. They have recently cracked down and busted a massive ring and have seized 1.7 million litres of counterfeit wine, vodka, and whiskey. It's quite extraordinary. In fact, this widespread investigation, they searched over 2,409 locations. They issued 663 arrest warrants, and they disrupted 42 criminal networks. I mean, this is James Bond stuff, people. This is, of an epic scale. The raids resulted in a seizure of more than 15,000 tons of illicit products worth over $60 million. It's quite something. The haul included 47,660 litres of whiskey. Okay, talking about the Italians, the Italian Carabinieri Corps made 5 house arrests in connection with wine counterfeiting specifically. So next time you have a drink when you're abroad, you may want to check the label and just make sure that it's real, because actually some of these alcohols were coloured. They're not actual whiskies or vodkas. They're made illicitly. They're not just stolen. They're actually fake alcohol. So it's a big business out there.
And also, you want to check that the police are real and don't go around calling the spaghetti carbonari, as I've just called it. I think they're called the carabinieri, but you know what?
Carbonara! Here comes the carbonara, the shiny shoes. Our guest this week is the founder and CEO of Sackcloth Ashes, a mission-driven company that gives a blanket to a homeless shelter for each one purchased. In June 2018, he launched Blanket the United States, a campaign with the goal of donating 1 million blankets to homeless shelters by 2024. A lofty goal, to say the least. He now travels the United States campaigning to bring awareness and resources to organizations that are creating solutions for homelessness and speaking at events on the topics of entrepreneurship and societal solutions. Please welcome Bob Dalton. Bob, how are you, mate?
I'm doing good, man, now that I'm on talking with you guys.
Fantastic. We appreciate it. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking I chose a Mai Tai, a nice, refreshing beverage in the afternoon here on the Pacific Northwest.
So that's where you are. We've got the Pacific Northwest, we've got New York, and we've got Oxford, England, all on one podcast right here. But you don't look like a Mai Tai kind of guy to me for some odd reason. It's not the drink I would have thought you would have pulled up. What's the story behind your Mai Tai?
The story behind the Mai Tai is, I'm drinking relatively early in the day. And some of my best moments and my best times are with Mai Tais, man. I selected a Mai Tai because one moment in particular, I was out in Hawaii drinking Mai Tais, drank 3 or 4 of them. And the later in the evening that it got, my wife and I ended up jumping in the ocean with our clothes on, and just it's some of the best memorable times of my life, man. The most romantic, the most beautiful. And I feel like instead of having some old fashioned or something that I normally would pick, I'm just trying to have a good time on this podcast.
There you go. Watch out,
Oh,
Tom.
yeah.
He's going to have a couple of Mai Tais, and before you know it, he's going to be wrapping himself up in a blanket with nothing else on.
Do you know something? That was one of the best. That was one of the best, most honest and straightforward, straight shooting explanations for why you're drinking what you're drinking. I mean, I've ever heard. Just before you came on, Nigel was asking me what I was drinking, and I did an incredibly convoluted thing about a very simple drink. And he was just like, "Geez, keep it simple." That was absolutely brilliant. That's great. That's kind of the most. I think that's the most
Tom
explanation we've ever had. Huh?
I would please listen and learn from Bob. Bob knows what he's talking about. He's developed an entire company out of blankets, for God's sakes, which we're going to get into, and he knows how to talk about a cocktail. Meanwhile, you lofty explanation for why you're drinking a vodka tonic or something, which is just embarrassing, quite frankly. But we're going to get on to much more important bits of information. Bob, so impressed to have you on here. I've heard so much about you from so many great people. You know, the funny thing is that I had already received one of your blankets before I'd even heard of you. I had been given one. A friend of mine had given us a blanket, and I hadn't fully put it all together. I remember reading it, receiving it, and thinking and telling my wife how amazing it is. And when I recently just told my wife that you were coming on the show, and she said to me, "Oh my God, you have to tell him I love his blankets. They are," and right now, actually, my father-in-law is wrapped up in one of your blankets downstairs with my kids, my father-in-law. So they are a part of our house. You've made a really amazing quality product that it isn't this, sometimes you hear about people doing things for an organization, for a charity, for just to help the world type of thing, but it's not necessarily the most premium product. But you've built something and created something which is desirable in its own right. So just wanted to say congratulations on just doing it right.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And the goal from the very beginning was to create a really high quality premium product that happened to help the homeless community and not the other way around. There's a lot of missional brands that start with, we're going to help the homeless problem. And so we're going to create a product around that. And we wanted to make sure that we were creating a premium brand first and foremost, and make sure that we stay as high quality of the product as we possibly can, and happen to also provide blankets to the homeless. And I think that that's given us a larger platform than we would have had if we would have been mission first and product second. So
let's just dive straight into it. Why homelessness? I mean, why out of all the things? I mean, I always tell people, when I speak about various organizations, and we've had so many people on the show who have a cause, but homelessness specifically is particularly sort of specific. What got you in there?
Yeah, it definitely was on the bottom of my list as well, of something that I would not want to have been involved in. Something that's more interesting to me is helping with people that are hungry, or women who've gotten swept up in sex trafficking, or, there's other societal issues that I would have looked at and said, oh, that 100%, that's a worthy cause to advocate for and help. Homelessness was not on that list. And I was actually the guy that would drive by people on the street and whisper under my breath, "Go get a job." And I had zero compassion for people on the street. And I still struggle today with my own bias and judgments toward people out on the street holding signs and begging for money and all that kind of stuff. So it's not something that I planned on getting to either. And was very judgmental toward the issue. And it wasn't until my mom went through a series of events and found herself living on the streets that completely changed my paradigm. My attitude and bias was, you should work a little harder. You should have made better choices with your life. My mom is the hardest working person that I know. She has 2 college degrees, managed restaurants most of her life, and raised my sister and I by herself. So it flipped my entire paradigm of how I think people even end up on the streets. And it made me realize that there's something deeper to this problem than just laziness or not working hard enough.
Thanks for sharing that. You know, it's interesting, but many people have been through situations like really traumatic events in their life, like a hurricane, for example, or some sort of, you know, weather-related disaster where you all of a sudden are displaced out of your home, and you know, and you don't have insurance because you don't have flood insurance and things like that. And this sort of thing happened to us, and as a family, with when it hit New York, when New York was hit by Hurricane Sandy, and we had real devastation in New York for the first time in a very long time. And if it weren't for a very good friend of mine giving us their apartment, you know, my apartment was not livable, and there was nothing else to move into. So we were not necessarily homeless at that moment, but we had to go live at someone else's home. And I realized that I was really only a couple of degrees away from being homeless, actually. You know, and so that was an eye opener. And just while we're on the subject of this, and I just thought it was interesting for people out there, our listeners, to know, because, you know, people know me from working in the fashion industry, from working in a very luxurious industry, and having really access to sort of things that people think are very exclusive and elitist and all the rest of it. But, you know, back in the day, and I wrote about this in a book of mine called The Beauty Equation, there was a time when I was in Italy, and my parents didn't want me to be a model, and I was modeling. This is late 80s, early 90s. And I had a job in Italy, and I had showed up from England, and I'd taken a flight. I'd arrived in Italy. I went to the hotel, and it was really before I had a proper credit card. I didn't have a cell phone. This is before cell phones, people. That's how old I am. And, you know, I went to the hotel, and they didn't have a reservation that I was meant to be staying at. They didn't have a reservation for me. And if I was to rent a room that night, it was going to cost a fortune. And I ended up going to a park and sleeping the night on a park bench, and waking up the following day and going to the job. And I didn't want to tell my parents and have them bail me out, because I was embarrassed and didn't want for them to sort of, because they didn't want me modeling in the first place. And they were going to say, I told you so. So I wanted to stick it out and do it my own way. And I was proud, right? And I just think that, you know, when I realized that I've slept on a park bench and woken up in the morning, and for that night being homeless because I couldn't afford anything, and I was a kid, I was 18 years old, and you see people out there and you judge them, and you have to be very careful, right? So that's just wanted to put my own spin, my own personal tale of some sort of understanding, some sort of compassion to people's, you know, it's not, everyone's story is different, right?
Yeah, I mean, people don't, you know, when you talk to the majority of people on the streets, it's not something that they had in their life plans. You know, it's something that happened, something traumatic, or something that they went through, or some sort of, you know, I mean, there's so many. I always say homelessness is really not an issue. It's a result of a lot of different issues. It's a puddle that is the result of a stream of many different issues. And so when you're looking at homelessness, you know, there's a lot of pathways that result in what homelessness is, but it's usually the result of actual issues in society that are much deeper and could be linked all the way back to your childhood.
Your mother, though, her particular story, she wasn't homeless for long, though, right? This was just a moment that happened, or what's a sort of deeper, little bit deeper, as much as you're happy going. Obviously, you don't want to pry in this situation, but you brought her up, and I know she's sort of a bit of a, you know, sort of you talk about her in your various interviews. I've heard you talk about her in general, but what was the sort of the crux of it?
Yeah, she had lost a couple family members. She lost her mother and her brother, and it sent her on a downhill spiral. And it, you know, with a single mother, and at the time, my sister and I were out of the house, so we were old enough to where she was kind of, you know, on her own. But she had lost, you know, some of the most pivotal people in her life that she would lean on in times of needing support and help. And when your support system gets stripped away from you like that, and especially suddenly, and especially with people that are deeply connected to who you are, you get sent into almost an identity crisis. And she started to get involved in a lot of different things that she ended up, you know, shouldn't have, but she did. And she got kind of swept up in a vicious cycle of it all. And she called me up one day and she said, Bob, it's time. I need to do it. I need to move across the United States and start my life over. And at the time, she was living in Oregon, and she had an aunt out in Florida. So she sold everything she had left on Craigslist, booked a one-way plane ticket from Oregon to Florida with a suitcase and 2 pairs of interview clothes, flies over to Florida, thinks her aunt's going to take her in. Her aunt doesn't take her in, and she ends up sleeping on beaches and benches and going through all kinds of withdrawals and symptoms of the past. And it was just a really, really dark time, because there's not really a ton that I could have done, with the amount of, the distance, but also just the complexities of what she was going through personally. And she ended up being on and off the streets for a little while, and ended up hitchhiking and ended up in Ohio. And she got a job at a Mexican food restaurant. Like I said, she's the hardest working person I know. And from there, she dealt with issues for the next 4 years, in and out of rehabs, in and out of hospitals. And finally, I moved her back to Oregon. And she was still dealing with a lot of different problems. And I was at a women's and children's program, because one of the things that I do as part of my job, which I'll share here in a little bit, is I go to different homeless shelters and programs around the United States, learning about what's solutions are out there to help the homeless problem. And I'm sharing at a women's shelter about why I'm there and why I do what I do and how my mom inspired it. And they go, "Where's your mom now?" And I said, "I just moved her back to Oregon." They go, "Can you get her into this women's program? We have 38 out of 40 slots filled. Can you get her here?" And I was able to get her there. They accepted her on the spot. And here we are 24 months later. She's 100% clean and sober off of drugs and alcohol. And she works full time for the actual rescue mission. And she's healthier than I am. And
were you involved? So you were involved. Were you already involved with her when she was going through her plight? Were you already involved with the homeless program, or was it did it happen as a result of? Or?
Yeah, no, her whole journey is what inspired everything I'm doing now. And when I couldn't help her for a variety of reasons, is what prompted me to call homeless shelters in my area and just say, "Hey, what do you guys need?" And they were like, "We need blankets." And I was familiar with the 1-for-1 business model and came up with the idea that I'm going to start a blanket company. And for every blanket that I sell, I'm going to donate a blanket to a homeless shelter.
Had you ever made a blanket before, Bob?
No, I'd never started a business before. There's no business experience. There's no expert in fabric. I knew one thing, which is where to buy a sewing machine and a roll of fabric. And that was Joann's Fabric. That's all.
How did you know how to use the sewing machine?
I didn't. I tried to learn how to sew. I took sewing lessons, and I realized I can't sew about 2 weeks in.
So, I mean, it's the funny. It's a funny story. It's funny as in unusual. It's such an extraordinary sort of set of events that set you up. And I'm sort of imagining there you are. You're like, "What can I do to help?" You call up the shelter. They're like, "We need blankets," and you're like, sort of like, "Okay, let me go buy a bunch of blankets." You're like, you head to the sort of haberdashery store to get a bunch of material and a sewing machine, and you're going to make them. I mean, to a lot of people out there, a lot of the average guy would say, "Well, surely a blanket's just a piece of material, right? It's just a square or something." You know what I mean? It's just isn't that what a blanket is? But your blankets are real blankets, and they're woven, and so you don't do that with a sewing machine. They don't weave a blanket. So what were you doing with the sewing machine that was making a blanket? And what how did it go from that to Sackcloth and Ashes?
Yeah, I mean, I realized I couldn't sew. And so my next, strategy was find somebody who can. And so I looked in the newspaper and I found a local seamstress who was doing some sewing here locally. And her name's Tammy. I went to Tammy's house and Tammy said, "Oh, this is perfect. I'm already quilting blankets and I'm keeping them in my car to pass out to people on the street." And so I said, "Hired, Tammy, you're the perfect hire." So I hired Tammy, and Tammy started making blankets for me. And I just started, I lived in Oregon at the time, and I just drove up and down the Oregon coast, walking into shops with boxes of blankets. and saying, hey, here's why you need to buy these blankets over the blankets on your shelf, because I'm going to drive down to my local homeless shelter and I'm going to donate all the blankets in my trunk. And I got into about 20 shops. I named the brand Sackcloth and Ashes because sackcloth and ashes means mourning and repentance. And yeah, I just thought that was a good fit, because every time you wrap yourself in a sackcloth and ashes blanket, it symbolizes mourning over the homeless population and repentance by contributing to a homeless shelter in your area. And so from that point on, my only business strategy was to post on Instagram once a day. That was my business plan. And in 2014 is when I launched the company. 2014 was really the bottom of the wave of where, you know, social media was heading. And so I just started posting on Instagram once a day, just because I thought everybody's on it. That's kind of the next wave of television. And so I started posting on Instagram, and 5 months into it, November of 2014, I got an email from Instagram. They said, Bob, we love your story. We love what you're doing. We want to feature you on Instagram's Instagram account, which is the largest Instagram account in the world. They had 42 million followers at the time. And I said, hey, how long do I have to prepare for this? And they said, we're posting about you tomorrow. And it was the day before Black Friday. And so that's what skyrocketed the company in the early stages. We went from a sewing machine at Joann's Fabric to working with Tammy to getting featured on Instagram's Instagram to 42 million people. And that quickly forced me to find a manufacturer, which is where we make our fabric now, which is Florence, Italy. We make all of our fabric now out of 100% recycled material. And that fabric now gets shipped from Italy to our production hub here in Oregon, which is actually where I'm at right now. This is our production warehouse down there. Amazing. And this beautiful refurbished facility here in Oregon. And we cut, sew, label, polybag, and do all of our own fulfillment.
Incredible. What an amazing story. So it's 7 years now you've celebrated.
We're 7 years in, man. And it's been a crazy, crazy journey. I tell people all the time that to me, it's hilarious. I never thought not only did I think I wouldn't own a blanket company, I didn't think I'd own a company in general, and for it to last 7 years and actually do, you know, what we're doing now is just, it's hilarious to me. It is, I feel like I'm not in on the biggest inside joke. I just feel like every day I just think it's fascinating to me.
So you launched a campaign called Blanket the United States with the idea of donating 1 million blankets. Where are you in that number so far?
Yeah, we surpassed about 250,000 at the end of this last year. And we're right back on pace. In the month of April, a couple months ago, we locked in 3 new national partners. One of them is KB Home. They're a home builder here in the United States. We partnered with them. And so for every home they build in the United States, they give a blanket as a gift for your new home. And because of that, we're donating over 10,000 blankets to homeless shelters because of our partnership with KB Home. We partnered with Churchill Mortgage. Every mortgage that they do, they give a blanket as a gift. They bought 20,000 blankets. And we partnered with REI. REI just bought 10,000 blankets, and the blankets will be launched in every REI in the nation. And then we just signed a deal with Disney, and we created a blanket collection for National Geographic, which will be launched on November 1st. And so the energy of the brand is starting to pick up, and I do believe we are on pace at this point to blanket the United States by 2024, and then we'll go from there.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations.
Seriously, congratulations. That's an awesome, it's an amazing story. That's extraordinary. Like total just belief in what you're doing and getting other people to see what that is great. It's kind of philanthropy in another way, getting these deals on in a way that it's extraordinary. It's kind of, yeah, congratulations.
How much work is done through, or how many blankets are sold through the conventional way of sort of a customer like myself potentially wanting to give one away as a gift to a friend versus these sort of big corporate deals you're talking about?
Yeah, we're trying to keep it at this point about, 25 to 50% is still D2C, direct to consumer through our website, and we're hoping that that stays pretty balanced. The only way that we're going to stay relevant as a company is we appeal to our individual audiences. I think that we want to be pillared I think we have a shot. And I say this in the most humble way that I can. I think Sackcloth and Ashes has a shot to be pillared premium product and respected in the industry on like a Patagonia, Nike type of level. I think Sackcloth and Ashes has a shot to be a household name, but still in the premium product category. And we're going to do that and accomplish that through not just strategic partnerships, but we're going to do that by premium high level content and good storytelling. And, that's what we're working on now. And we have incredible partnerships coming up. And, the goal from this point on is figuring out who we should partner with, not, if we're going to get partnerships.
Is it difficult to from here where you are at the moment? Is it difficult, the concept of like where you're going to go, like your strat? Obviously, you're making this up, right? I mean, you're largely. You've been largely making this up as you've gone along, right? So, and it's just like one thing after another. But the underlying reason for you doing it has always remained. Have you got to a point now where your strategy is like, well, you want to be out there with Patagonia and the Nikes, you want to be out there as a premium product, but the kind of mission statement, I suppose they used to call it, right, is still your kind of raison d'etre, your reason for doing it is very much still. Is it kind of getting more difficult to keep the focus on your original message?
Man, that's such a beautiful question, and it comes at a really interesting time. We're 7 years in, and the whole story and the whole brand has been built around my personal story. And I think that the Sackcloth and Ashes brand now is surpassing and so much bigger than my personal story. And I think that as we look at it right now, I'm here in Oregon working with my team for the next 3 days, having these discussions, because historically, it's been pretty simple. We donate a blanket to a local homeless shelter for each blanket purchased. And what we're trying to figure out is, really coming back to the drawing board 7 years in and making sure that our brand stays innovative and interesting. And that could be the 1-for-1 blanket model. I think that's an incredible, sustainable model that has worked. But I think we're also having discussions on what our mission is and how do we want to present that to the public in a way that keeps us relevant and in the game and true to ourselves. I think that's a really big thing that matters to us. We want to stay true to ourselves as a brand. And I think to your point of the making things up, it's really true. I tell people when I get asked, what's your advice to entrepreneurs that are wanting to start something new? I always revert back to telling the story of one of my favorite artists, Ralph Steadman, who his creative process is he never knows what he's going to create when he goes into it. He just throws paint at a canvas. And after about 4 or 5 splats of paint, he takes a pencil and he starts to draw out what it is. And that's a big part of my journey. We have been throwing paint at a canvas and trusting the process that this thing is going to turn into something and that it's going to turn into what it's supposed to turn into. And our job is to help guide the, whatever this is supposed to turn into and take a pencil to it and start to identify what that's becoming. And that's the process that we're in right now.
Are you looking at other products then, other things other than blankets then to sort of, it seems like a natural progression.
Yeah, we're not. I do think we're going to remain blankets as long as I'm at the helm of this brand. I think blankets are a universal product. I think we have a shot to grow larger than Tom's Shoes and larger than Warby Parker simply because we're a universal product. I pitched on Shark Tank back in 2015 And they go, what's different between you and these other 1-for-1 companies? And I said, I can't buy everybody in this room shoes, and I can't buy everyone in this room glasses, but I can buy everybody in this room a blanket. And that's the difference between our product and other product companies. I think that Tom's biggest mistake and downfall, and I think they would tell you this as well, is they started to branch out into other products and start to really try to create a lifestyle brand around. They try to create a lifestyle brand and then create products around that. We are a product company. That's it. We are a blanket company, and we're going to do blankets all the way up. And I do think we have an opportunity to not only expand our D2C market, our wholesale market, but I think we have a tremendous opportunity in the corporate gifting business, where companies around the world right now are going, what should we give our employees or our customers as gifts? And they're also saying, how can we make a difference? And Sackcloth and Ashes answers both of those questions. And I think that's a multi-billion-dollar untapped industry that is, up to this point, trinkets.
You're already, also the lifestyle issue is the other way. You're already creating a blanket for a life. The reason you're doing it is you're doing it to help a certain type of lifestyle. That homelessness I'm talking about. You know? Yeah,
for sure. And I mean, blankets are a universal product all around. So like blankets can, we wrote on the whiteboard last night, blankets tell a story. And every single person in the world has some sort of a story around a blanket. That, it could be connected to your childhood or something that, I don't know. Everyone has really interesting stories about blankets are such a personal, emotional product. And I think that, there's plenty of backpack companies and plenty of shoe brands and plenty of, there's only a handful of blanket companies. And I'm looking at the competition and I see a wide open field, and I'm just going to stay in our lane.
Bob, how can we end homelessness? I mean, obviously the blankets are great for, obviously people, the homeless shelters need blankets, people need to stay warm, but is it realistic? Is there are we trying to get political here? Are we trying to lobby Congress for different rules and legislation in the homeless situation? Like, what is the key to solving this problem? In the big picture.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought that up. I believe there's hope, and here's my strategy and my personal perspective and opinion on this. I'm launching a foundation this November called Love Your City. And it's completely separate from Sackcloth and Ashes. There'll be two different entities, two different, missions for the most part. But what Love Your City is going to do is it's going to be a website, loveyourcity.org. And you're going to be able to go to that website, type in your address, and we're going to show you all the grassroots organizations in your community and how you can get involved by donating money, volunteering, and advocating for these organizations in your local community. If we're going to solve large systemic problems, these massive problems that we're dealing with globally and in our nations, it's going to have to be done on a local level. That's the only hope that we have, is by tackling these problems on a local level and highlighting solutions that are working. Journalism, as you guys know, 90% of our journalism is focused on the issues of society. That is creating more problems for us. Mm-hmm. Our activism and our giving is to large national institutional nonprofits. We need what I'm calling more socially sustainable models, which is keeping resources and people investing their time and energy in their local communities. And what is happening is, as we invest resources into these larger institutional nonprofits, we are breaking social sustainable model, and those resources are flowing out of our communities. And if you're a small or mid-sized community, those resources are not coming back. And when that model breaks, all the nonprofits in your community, all the solutions are scrambling for the, small handful of philanthropists and large donors, and they're scrambling for their money and they're competing because there's not enough to go around. But when you have a social sustainable model, there's plenty to go around, and everyone has an opportunity to be a contributor. So the way that we're going to tackle not just homelessness, any systemic large problem that we're dealing with is going to be done on a local level by highlighting and supporting solutions and giving everyone an opportunity to do something. That's how we're going to change these problems. And I'm dedicating the rest of my life to that platform to make sure that the small amount of time that I still have left on this earth is going to be advocating for local and solutions. Sackcloth and Ashes was a detour for me. A bit of a, like I said, it's funny that I even own a product company. It's funny that I'm involved in business, but it's been a great resource. It's been a great network. It's been a great, credibility for me and where I'm at in my life. Love Your City is what I believe is going to create real legitimate change. Sackcloth and Ashes is an incredible premium product company that happens to be providing blankets to the homeless. And there's a big difference.
Is that, do you know something? That I totally get what, congratulations again. I mean, awesome. That's amazing what you're doing. It's kind of mind blowing what you're doing, especially with your foundation and Love Your City. I'm in England. It's funny. Last Christmas, and again, I'll go off track a bit. Last Christmas, I was trying to get. I've got a 11-year-old kid who I was trying to do. So I'm trying to go and help. Sitting here at Christmas, got all this stuff going on. I'm fortunate. I got warmth. I live in a house. I've got everything I need. I got nothing. But I also want to give a bit of time to go and help, go and volunteer. So I found it incredibly difficult. I found it unbelievably difficult to actually find anywhere that would take me as a volunteer. All I wanted to do was just give up my time. I said, I've got days, I've got a week, maybe I've got some time without my kids. I've got this time, I've got a car, what can I do? I can do anything you want. I can come and help people who literally are in a position where they're just surviving. And it was incredibly difficult, and I found it almost impossible. And I ended up with a local volunteer link-up service, which I'm a member of now. And the red tape was phenomenal. The registering your car, registering your insurance to drive people if you wanted it. Just as a volunteer, I now get rung up maybe once a month by this organization. It's a very good organization. It helps people who can't, who are elderly, who can't. And they ring me once a month and they say, you're on our list of things. Can you do this? And I'm still sitting here now, and I'd love to do more. I really would love to do more. And I literally, I was thinking at Christmas, this is ridiculous. This is unbelievably ridiculous. All I want to do is help, and I know I can help, right? I literally know I can help, even if it's just talking to someone, right? But I can't find any way of being able to do it. And then I was getting so kind of crazed by that, and I'm still in the same position now. I'm still sitting there going, I just simply don't know. I've got time, but I don't know how to. There is no logical way of doing it. Is that what? I mean, again, Love Your City. Is that your foundation? Are you talking about making this sort of stuff? Because it's happening here in England. I mean,
yeah.
I'm thinking there needs to be something to make this simpler.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obsessed and consumed with this particular project, not because I need something else on my plate, but because I believe this needs to exist. I come across people almost every day that say, I want to make a difference, but I don't know where to start. And I come across nonprofit and solutions almost every day that say, we desperately need awareness and support. You have two major you have individuals that want to do something and organizations that need something to be done. And there's this massive divide and gap. Yeah. We need something that is helping connect the dots and done in a non-cheesy way. Historically, anything done, not anything, but most things done in the nonprofit world is not great. It's the least innovative sector by far, no argument to that. And it needs a little bit of a new standard and a new accountability. Love Your City is going to raise the bar on what nonprofits should ultimately look like and be held accountable to. The governments are the only ones that are holding nonprofits accountable. That's ridiculous. And we need a little bit of a new standard and a new vision casted here for being able to actually move the needle on some of these problems. And I do believe social sustainability is what's going to ultimately solve that problem, which is, to your point, helping people get connected on a local level so that they can help meet the needs of their community. I define social sustainability as people taking responsibility for the needs in their community consistently long term. That's what we need more of. And that's what I'm hoping to, I'm hoping Love Your City and other platforms, you know what I mean? Hopefully somebody listening to this is going, I'm going to help start something as well. We need more social sustainable models that's connecting people to local solutions. If we do that, we have a shot.
Yeah, I do. What I was thinking is how does that how do you get totally understand what you're doing, totally understand the need for it? How does it, I mean, does it travel? You say love your city. I'm sitting here in England thinking, well, love your town. I mean, love your city, love your town, love your, is it something that, is this something, I mean, I don't know, I guess where you are at the moment, it's impossible to say, but is this something that actually can spread in a sense,
The nice thing about my platform is that I'm not trying to start anything new in any city. That's a nice thing. I'm not trying to be the next social movement. I'm trying to create social sustainability. There's a huge difference. A social sustainable platform, especially digitally, is we're launching in the top 100 cities in the United States right off the bat in November of 2021. And then we're going to rapidly expand this platform to cities around the world and be curating some of the best solutions and organizations. What's going to also be different about our platform is that we're not just going to highlight organizations in the form of a really beautiful user experience database. The database is very secondary to what I'm launching. The primary thing that we're launching through loveyourcity.org is content, very high quality content in the form of podcast, where I'll be interviewing people and organizations doing grassroots work, video, where I'll be partnering with different celebrities each month and highlighting nonprofits in their communities through documentary level 5-minute videos. Journalism, will be partnering with some of the best writers around the world to highlight solutions in their communities, and photography. And the content is what's going to drive this forward and help spread the word on these particular solutions. But whether you give through loveyourcity.org to local grassroots organizations or you want to give directly, it doesn't affect us at all. We're not going to make any money, or we're not taking any cuts on any of the donations through our website. We are going to be fully funded on the back end, completely separate from any sort of donations flowing through our website.
Yeah, we've had one of our guests, Hugh Evans. I'm not sure if you've met him before, but he's the CEO and founder of Global Citizen. And he's obviously part of their mission. The Global Citizen is to end homelessness and what have you, and their mission is obviously partnering with incredible organizations and people, celebrities all over the world as well. And it's mostly done through music, as I'm sure you're aware, at Global Citizen. But you've partnered with some interesting people. I know I saw you partnered with Kevin Bacon. And what have you, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. What is the idea behind partnering with sort of celebrities and these sort of groups, and how does that message translate?
Yeah, I mean, I'm launching a video series called Spotlight, where I'm going to be shining the spotlight on some of the best solutions in the United States that are being created to help some of these big problems. And I'm partnering with celebrities in different cities to highlight nonprofits and solutions in their city. And what I'm going to display and show is that these influencers, whether it's an actor, a musician, a chef, an activist, it doesn't matter. We're going to invite them into this nonprofit that they're passionate about helping, or we're helping them identify and tell the story of that solution and that nonprofit. They just happen to be a part of the video. It's not about them. And I think that a lot of celebrities, they love that. They're like, I'm not hitting them up going, hey, can I interview you? I'm saying, hey, do you want to be the one who also interviews this nonprofit with me? You know, this is not about us at the end of the day. It's about highlighting solutions in our local communities. And so what, what we did with Kevin in New York was there's an organization called City Relief that's doing amazing work in Manhattan. And they're a mobile homeless service that goes around to different parts of the city. And they set up every week at the same location, and they pass out resources and get people on the streets connected with additional resources that they need. And they build relationships with these people. And Kevin came down and served soup, passed out blankets, got to meet people, got to learn more about City Relief. And, and on the video that we'll be releasing here a little bit down the road as part of our Spotlight series is Kevin talking about why he loves New York City, why he believes it's important to make a difference on a local level. And that's what I want to showcase to this large audience that will be kind of watching in and listening in, is that it doesn't matter what status you are, how much resources you have, is that we have to make a difference on a local level. That's the whole narrative of what I'm trying to promote. And I believe a lot of celebrities, and not just celebrities, but just anybody in general, our tagline as a foundation is the future of giving is local. That is the future of our conversations. 5 years from now, we are going to talk about what is being done on a local level. And I don't think I'm pioneering that. I'm just predicting that that's where these conversations are going to go.
Amazing. Well, here. Good for you. Amazing work. It's funny because you started this whole conversation with, I'm not a businessman, or, I didn't know how I'm sort of doing business, or I've got a company, but you sound like someone who's really got their head screwed on very, very well. You're incredibly focused. You're running a really successful business. You've got plans. You've got you seem to me to be right where you should be, actually. It's no surprise.
I appreciate that, but I am no Kevin Bacon, and I'm actually I might just be a good actor.
Well, what does that mean to Kevin? If you're no Kevin Bacon, yet you're a good actor.
No, I'm
not going to leave that one right where it is, Bob. You said it. Sorry, Kevin.
No, I'm
you're clearly a comedian as well.
Yeah, no, I what I meant is, I'm just a good actor. I truly feel like I'm a low scale business person is what I meant.
I'm here to catch you out on all these things, and we like to have a bit of a laugh on the Shaken and Stirred show. We can't be
good, man.
Heavy.
It makes complete sense. Do you know something? I'm glad you kind of the focus kind of came onto the foundation, which is clearly which is clearly where your kind of heart is, really, I suppose. Your next, do you make a difference? This has the potential to make a massive difference. I mean, it really has the potential to go to go and to travel as well. You're not just talking about New York. You're not talking about cities in America. Literally, the problem I have here, with trying to volunteer, and I can't. If the business model, if it travels, it comes over and it comes across, it really has the potential to go into every little town and city. It can kind of travel. I mean, it can go everywhere. It's not about global citizen and a bunch of pop stars on the stage, although they, doing great work. This is actually something that this is like a business. You're saying you're not a businessman, but this is a kind of what you're promoting is a business model that has potential to really work everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a time and place for the one-day events. We just had one day LA out here. Bieber performed, and a bunch of it had a lot of hype. I'm a supporter of that because I do believe that that breeds inspiration and gets people thinking in a positive way, which we desperately need right now. But what we absolutely need most of all is socially sustainable models, which is something that is going to last. It's not about the hype. It's not about the big events. It's not about, it's about people taking responsibility for their communities. And I really, really, really believe that. Like, that's what's going to actually change these problems, not put a Band-Aid on these problems. And, much respect to national nonprofits and international work. And we need all that. And as the United States, out of any country in the world, we should be stepping up and supporting international work. But if we are not stepping up and taking care of our own local communities, that's what I have a problem with.
There you have it, people. Bob, before we let you go, you've been very generous with your time. We have something on the Shaken and Stirred show, which is a bit of fun and games, and it's called Last Orders, where we just get to learn a little bit more about Bob Dalton and the man behind the mystery. It's very simple. We're going to start off with a very quick and easy question to kind of roll us in here. But do you have a favorite band?
I would say right now, man, I'm just, I love, oh man, as far as band, I would say I love the band Camino.
Camino?
It's actually called the band Camino.
The band Camino. Okay, there you go. It's called which band do you like? I like the band Camino, and it's called the band Camino. Fantastic. Perfect name. And is there a song of theirs that you love?
Oh, man. I think the song is called I Spent Too Much Time in My Room.
We can all relate to that.
If you had to name any kitchen utensil that most mimics who you are, what would it be? What kitchen utensil would you be?
I would say the pizza cutter. I'm just slicing through shit right now. You I'm slicing through it, and but it's in an orderly way.
I like that. We've not had a pizza cutter before. There you go. For some odd reason, that's the first time we've had a pizza cutter. Anyone's never mentioned that. I love that. In the movie of your life, who would you have play you, other than Kevin Bacon? Because clearly you're a better actor.
Oh man, these are good questions, man. And I honestly was not prepared for these. And I would say right off the top of my head, I would say.
You always say yourself.
No, I mean, do they got to be alive?
Nope.
Anthony Bourdain.
Anthony Bourdain. There you go. I love it. He'll play an older you, Bob, but it's fine.
He would play an older me, but there's not a spirit that I connect with more than Anthony Bourdain.
Amazing. He's an extraordinary person. And yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that. So what gets your goat and what floats your boat?
I don't even know what that means. Do I just
So what gets your goat means what upsets you and pisses you off, and what floats your boat is what do you love?
Oh man, what pisses me off more than anything is people blaming. This is more my serious answer. People blaming other people and blaming institutions and systems for the problems that we have going on in society. There's nothing more that makes me upset than blame, because it just, you know what I mean? It just is a distraction from the real work. There's so much complaining and bitching going on right now. What fires me up? Is that the second thing?
Yeah, what floats your boat? What fires you up, Bob?
What fires me up is the creative projects that I get to be a part of, man. And feeling like I get to be a part of I feel truly like a participant in the next wave, the next large conversation that we need to have as a society. That fires me up. I get excited about being in the game still, having these conversations, debating people, figuring things out, the creative process of it all, as we all are extremely unintelligent when it comes to figuring out these massive, complex problems. I love to think of myself as a small participant, and I love every minute of it.
Final question: shaken or stirred?
Oh man, I would have to say stirred, man. There's nothing better than stirring up some something that I actually know I'm changing my mind. I love shaking things up. Something
tells me that you might be both shaken and stirred.
Yeah,
just like this
I'm 50-50,
podcast.
man. I'm 50-50. I love the name. I love the name.
I had a feeling you said that, because when I said shaken or stirred, as soon as it came out, I was like, why does it always have to be or? Why can't it be shaken and or?
It can, but it's you know what? Again, Bob, you're the very first person in 75 interviews to not say they're one or the other, and then to change that. So there you go.
I feel both.
You're both.
Man, well, I really, really, really genuinely thank you for having me on, man. It's a pleasure to meet the both of you and spend time with you guys.
Everybody, Bob Dalton.
Can I just say, Bob, if you're ever doing anything, with your foundation, if you ever start coming over and you want to, you start literally doing country hopping, and I can help in any way, shape, or form here in England with the foundation, with the concept, because it's something literally that I've been actually hand-tied by, not being able to kind of link in and help, and it's been something I'm thinking about. So I'm completely, if you want help over here in the UK, please use my details. You can get my details off Embassy Row or Nigel, whatever. But please contact me, and if I can be of any help, and I can try and hook you up with anyone over here to get the ball rolling, and literally, please, I really mean that. And I've never, by the way, the first time in 75 episodes, I have never ever invited anybody I've ever done a podcast with to contact me. I mean, I might have said come and stay occasionally, slightly sort of realised that I was pissed afterwards. But on this one, I'm completely sober, and I promise you, you need any help in the UK, you need any help, you get in touch. Please do get in touch. If I can help, I will.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Tom, and thank you for sharing your experience with that. I appreciate that, and it's very confirming to the journey that, of what I'm doing and what I'm building.
Sounds amazing.
Everybody, Bob Dalton, Sackcloth and Ashes. Bob, how can people get involved with Sackcloth and Ashes?
I mean, our website, sackclothandashes.com. I'm really, truly, you can follow the brand on Instagram, Sackcloth X Ashes. But, at the end of the day, I'm not trying to sell product. I really am not trying to do any sort of sales pitches or anything like that. But if you want to follow the brand, Sackcloth X Ashes on Instagram. If you want to follow kind of the behind the scenes, you can add me on LinkedIn. It's going to be a
bullshit
journey.
To all of that. Go and buy a blanket and make a difference, everybody out there. I'm going to give a sales pitch on behalf of Sackcloth and Ashes, as I did at the very beginning. I have 2 blankets now, which means we've donated 2 blankets. Guys, everyone out there, if you're thinking of a gift, you're thinking of a corporate gift, if you've got a friend, if you're going to spend the weekend with a friend and you want a gift for, the hostess gift, this is the gift. It isn't just giving back, which will make everyone feel great. It's absolutely a beautiful blanket. And you've got great designs. Check them out before you judge. Don't just think, oh, this is some kind of, charity thing. It's not. This is a serious business. business. The blankets are beautiful. They're comfortable. My own family are swaddled in them. All right. So there you go. You have my endorsement. Go out and get something worthwhile and give back. So when you give, when you buy, you're guilt-free. How about that? Guilt-free buying. Nothing better than that, people. All the best. Bob Dalton, you rock. We love you.
Man.
Cheers, my friend.
Thank you, guys.
Everybody,
Nice
this
to
is
meet you.
Shaken and Stirred. Follow us on Shaken and Stirred and look out for all our great episodes coming up. Thanks so much, Bob. Thank you very much for listening. That is Shaken and Stirred. We will be back next week with another podcast and another fantastic guest. And stay safe.
See ya.